Hey y'all, it's Dr. Lala. Welcome back to the Revolve podcast where grief and loss are a journey and not a final destination. This is also the place where we discuss how faith and therapeutic tools work together through our journeys through grief and life transitions. So, we are living in a time where people are more connected digitally than ever in a time in history. And even though we're more connected digitally, many folks still feel emotionally distanced. And the thing about it is, loneliness isn't just about feeling alone. It's also those feelings of being unseen, unsupported, disconnected, even when people are around. So today we're going to talk about why loneliness is rising. Why, even though we're more connected than we've ever been before, more people are having issues with loneliness. We're going to talk about how it affects our emotions and our spiritual health. And then we're also going to talk about what it looks like to rebuild reconnection in a world that's connected digitally, but often feels distant. Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? I know. Because we are connected digitally, right? We have access to cell phones. We have access to laptops, computers. We have a mode of communication where we can talk to someone basically face to face at all times. And even though that's true, can we all agree that it feels different when we're talking to someone face to face on a cell phone or a device than it does if we're talking to someone face to face and they're sitting directly across from us? It feels different, right? So let's talk about what loneliness actually is. Oftentimes, it's feelings of disconnection, feeling unseen, unsupported, that lack of meaningful relationships, or being surrounded by people and still feeling isolated. So the thing is, loneliness isn't about proximity or how close someone is to you. It's about that ability to be able to connect, right? Because even in a crowded room, you can still feel loneliness. And there is a difference between being alone and being lonely. You can have friends and still feel like no one sees you. Or when you are even within marriages sometimes, right? So this is true across all relationships. You can have a connection with someone and still feel alone. And usually that has to do with, again, being emotionally distant or not having a certain level of intimacy. And the reality is, the more we use devices, the wider that gap seems to be. And because of that, we often misunderstand what loneliness actually is. A lot of times people say things like, well, if you just go out more, you won't be so lonely. Or you need more friends, right? A lot of times those are the types of things we hear. But loneliness isn't solved just by being around more people, right? Because you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. It's not a personality flaw or a sign of weakness. Having connection with people is a human need. And a lot of times, part of the confusion is because we mistake social activity with emotional intimacy. Those two things are not the same. So you can be socially active and still not have someone that you can share your thoughts with, that you can have real conversations with. And sometimes it's not even the fact that you need someone to talk to, but just to have someone who can share time and space with you, right? It's not even that you need the noise, that you need to be able to go out. You need someone that you can share time and space with. And so a lot of times that affects us emotionally. And so how does loneliness show up in our emotions? It can be sadness, irritability, feeling disconnected from yourself, emotional numbness, overthinking, and even feeling like a burden. Because a lot of times loneliness affects how we see ourselves because we don't want to be a bother. It can make you feel unworthy, invisible. It can make you feel like you're not important to anyone. And again, the fact that you feel like a burden actually causes us to withdraw more, right? So now we have this instance where we want to be around people, but at the same time, we're pulling back because we don't want to get on folks' nerves. We don't want to be too much, right? And so those two things conflict because I'm lonely, but at the same time, I don't want to tell someone that I'm lonely and that I wish I had company, right? And so these are signs that we have unmet connection needs because we just want to connect with someone. And so these feelings of loneliness don't just affect our emotions, they also affect us physically, right? Our bodies are also impacted by the fact that we have these emotional needs, these needs for connection. Sometimes it can look like fatigue, sleep disruption, increased anxiety, difficulty concentrating, having a heightened stress response. So loneliness activates the same parts of the brain that's associated with physical pain, right? So when we're disconnected, our bodies see this as a sign of danger. I know, and that's interesting, right? And a lot of times that's why when we have feelings of loneliness, we can have issues with exhaustion, being overwhelmed, or even having like this sense of heaviness, right? And the truth is, it's not in your head. This is our nervous response. This is our nervous system doing what it's supposed to do. It's telling us, hey, there's something I need and I'm not getting it. And so then we have to actually listen to our bodies when it's telling us, hey, I need connection. Hey, I need time outside of just myself, right? Because we are built for connection. We are meant to live in community, right? And so loneliness always also has a spiritual impact, right? Loneliness affects everything. Sometimes we feel distant from God. We question our purpose, might have problems praying. It may be a challenge to pray, feeling spiritually numb, or that you don't have any hope. Because loneliness makes us feel like God is far away from us too. And it's not that God is far away from us. Sometimes it's that we're distant from Him. Your prayer life may feel empty or forced. You might not even know what to say. Feelings of loneliness may make you question your place in the world. Why am I even here? But Scripture reminds us that God is close to the brokenhearted, right? So He's close to those who feel alone. And so loneliness doesn't mean that God has left you, because He's there with us in all phases of life, even the ones that are a challenge. Those feelings of loneliness are just an indicator that you need more connection. And sometimes, even though it's not just about social activity, but sometimes it does look like we have to put ourselves out there more. I know for me, there was a season in my life where I spent a lot of time by myself. And there are times and spaces where we need to sit in silence and when we need to spend more time alone with the Father. So I'm not saying that those seasons don't come, because they do. But then there are also seasons where we have to put ourselves out there so that we can meet people. so that we can put ourselves in the position to make new friends. And I know there was a time just in recent years where I would hear people saying no new friends. I personally don't ascribe to that. I'm always open to meeting new people and making new friends because there's always opportunities to learn and grow. And how much more rich and full are our lives when we welcome new people in so that they can share their experiences with us. Because you never know what may develop from a new relationship, from an encounter with a stranger. You never know. Right? And the thing about scripture is it actually gives us framework for community and belonging. In Genesis 2:18, it says it's not good for man to be alone. And then in Galatians 6:2, it encourages us to bear one another's burdens. So from the very beginning, God designed us for connection. Because again, it says in Genesis 2:18 that it wasn't good for man to be alone. So the Father never intended us to be on this journey by ourselves. And then again, Galatians 6:2 encourages us to bear one another's burdens. And so scripture consistently points us to community, to sharing each other's burdens, and offering each other mutual support. And so that's also important as well, right? When we are in community with folks, we want to be in community with folks who actually reciprocate the care that we give. So even though we have these challenges with loneliness, we don't ever want to be in a situation where we're giving, and never getting anything in return, right? Relationships should be reciprocal. So the early church lived in community. So should we. Because again, loneliness isn't a spiritual failure. It's a signal to us telling us that we were created for community, for connection. And so again, so you don't have to go on this journey alone. It's healthy for us to have relationships. Jesus built relationships everywhere he went. There was no place the Father went that he didn't make a connection with someone. So you don't have to be on this journey by yourself. So what are some practical ways that we can work on rebuilding connection in this digital age? Because it can be a challenge. There are people who are more comfortable being online than they are talking to people face to face. Right? So sometimes we have to practice what that looks like to actually communicate with people face to face. So one thing to do is to start with one safe person. Building reconnection doesn't have to have a huge circle in the beginning. Yeah, in the beginning, it just needs to be intentional. So one safe person, and you may find that by joining a safe space, right? A place there where you have something in common with folks. Your values are aligned. And then start practicing just small moments of vulnerability. Because you don't want to share all of yourself all at one time when you first meet someone. Because we have to get to know folks and then be able to gauge what their capacity is. Because the reality is everyone can't hold everything that you carry. It's just a fact of life. Everyone can't hold what you carry. And then we want to create rhythms and present spaces where we're able to maintain those connections. So even if that looks like you guys meet for brunch or you guys have these meetings once a month, maybe you're into building Lego sets or something like that. And you know the library has these Lego clubs where you can meet once a month, and that's what you guys do. It may be that you want to join a book club. It may even be that you are being called to create this space. Because something I've learned throughout the years is that most of the time we're not the only ones who are experiencing something. And so sometimes we're going through something so that we can be the solution to the problem. And so maybe it's for you to create this space that you're looking for. Maybe it's for you to be the change that you're needing to see in your own life. Because chances are there's someone out there with a similar issue, right? And then also to be mindful when we're creating these connections so that we are not emotionally drained. Because again, we shouldn't be giving, and not getting anything in return. And so the big thing is knowing that these relationships grow with time and nurture, right? That we have to be consistent and intentional with building these relationships. Those are important things to consider, right? And so therapy also plays a role in healing loneliness, because therapy helps us to understand why connection can feel so hard sometimes. It helps us to identify attachment wounds, relational trauma, and sometimes those beliefs that make us believe that some people are unworthy of closeness. Those beliefs that make us feel that we're unworthy of closeness. And then in therapy, we also learn what emotional safety is, how to be vulnerable in a healthy way, and then how to build relationships that are supportive and they feel mutual. Because again, we're going to go back to the fact that our relationships should be reciprocal. So even though you're battling with this feeling of loneliness, you don't want to put yourself in the position to be taken advantage of while you're seeking community, while you're seeking relationship with folks. Because trust, there's a whole segment of people out here who are looking for folks to take advantage of. And they recognize you quickly. So being mindful of that, being mindful and prayerful as you seek relationship and community and connection with folks, right? And so as we get ready to close, let's reflect on what this feeling of loneliness is, what it stems from. Where is this feeling of disconnect? Is it from yourself? Is it from the people that you love? Is it that you feel disconnected from God? Where is this disconnection coming from? And then remembering that you are worthy of connection. You're worthy of community. And that you are not alone on this journey. The Father is with you. So you're not out here by yourself, right? So that's what we're going to work on. Seeking out more connection. Trying to build those relationships outside of the digital world. Because face-to-face interactions with folks is important. Being able to be in community, to share time and actual space with people is healthy, and it's good to do that. Because again, even in scripture it says that we weren't meant to be alone. So these are just some things to consider as you continue on this journey. And so until next time, keep choosing healing, keep choosing joy. I love y'all. Bye.